Right. Let's just take a minute and hold that gratitude in whatever way that you want to feel that in your heart. Just take a look around. Just feel into the presencing of this beautiful circle. And then just take a moment and close your eyes and feel the energy of this loving encampment of the heart as we come together for week 6. As if we were sitting in this beautiful teepee in the woods, in a forest. Outdoors, by a river. And simply in the awareness that we are whole beings, intimately connected to our inner and outer environment. And just beginning this evening with the ancestors, we come into this week of gratitude and having thanks and being in the giving. We honor the original people who lived in harmony with the land. And just beginning with this sense of innocence. Just allowing this feeling, this sensation. I'm going to pass it over to Oriana in a few minutes here. Just feeling into the undulation of love, of love's light, of love's presence. The implicate order of all things, influencing the explicit order of all things. And the sloughing off of the old on a cellular level, all the way out to the vast universe. Movement, and just noticing your body as waves in motion. Sporadic, always moving, always changing. And the freedom and the letting go. Just gently bringing yourself present. Just taking a moment to, me. Just to hold the circle as a whole tonight. Seeing yourself in relationship to the greater whole, to the energy, to the rainbow consciousness. And tonight we hold Michelle and Ia and Lisa, who's not feeling well, Malini, who's not feeling well. I think Judy's trying to get on. I think that's the only people I know who aren't going to be here tonight. Perfect. That's perfect. So welcome everyone. And before we open the whole GRO group, because there's going to be a lot of sharing tonight, especially from last week. There's a lot been moving. And so I'm just going to invite Oriana to take us on a little journey and invite you all to just open your heart. Notice if you find any triggers starting to happen. And this is a direct experience of resonance. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to Oriana and let's just keep rolling here for a moment.
And since we haven't talked about this, Shelley, how long I've been known to go on journeys for quite some time. So what is the timing we're working with? Open? Are you hearing me? Oh, I'm not hearing you.
Yeah, we're hearing you.
Oh, okay, great. I was just asking timing wise.
Oh, like, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes? 10 minutes? Yeah, 10 minutes would be great.
So a short journey. But since Shelley had mentioned the implicate order, and this is according to David Bohm, the famous physicist, that all that we see, all that we perceive as the physical universe has the a crystalline template implicate order that is not yet here, not in that it is unobservable, and yet it is present as the future arises in the moment. So imagine being able to feel that which is unobservable, that which is not yet here. Here. How do I perceive that which cannot be seen? I wonder if I can hear if I listen inward. Oh, so now hear all the sounds that you haven't been noticing as you're, all the sounds in your environment. And now let them go and listen inward. Oh, listen as the capillaries pulse against the eardrums. That sound that's always present and yet not perceived as we pay attention to the external world. Now listen inward. And you begin to hear the pulse of the heart pulsing over the capillaries and the eardrum, drumming, 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 where does the drumming come from? What is the pulse that you hear and you feel before you hear? You feel where the pulse originates. Now imagine you can hear the pulse before it arrives as sound waves across eardrum, interpreting it as hearing. Two ears to hear, one heart to feel. Feel the pulse. And notice that your mind has gone quiet. It happens quite immediately as you tune your attention and listen inward to perceive that which is not yet here. What else is not yet here? What of the butterfly that is present and yet not? Even as a caterpillar crawls, what is it of the butterfly? That has the urge to fly, not knowing wings, not yet. If you dissect a caterpillar, you will not find butterfly wings, and yet the wingedness is present, even as the caterpillar curls into its own demise to arise. What is it a butterfly feels, not knowing wingedness? What is the implicate order that holds butterfly wings? Imagine stretching, feeling, moving. What does it feel? Flying. That's right. I'm supposed to fly. Feel the urge that calls you forth, heart first. What's calling your heart? How would I know? What does it feel in the heart being called? Before there are words to hear, what do I feel? Heart first. Calling. Moving. I feel moving. I feel moved. I feel moved to tears. Something so poignant. Something touches me. How does my heart feel touched? How does my heart feel? And feeling is moving. What is moving? Moving. Moving. Oh, one heart feeling move. Oh, many hearts feeling moved. A murmuration of starling. That's right. I'm supposed to fly. Oh, I'm flying as if I'm one alone. Oh, and there's a whole template, an implicate order, a murmuration, moving as one. Oh, as we are one another. Listen inward. What does it feel? Listen to all that is not yet here. And no need to bring yourself back to present, for you are already present still. Oh, the not yet is always present, still here.
Everyone, take your little butterfly wings on your heart. Just take a moment. You're willing to be the butterfly of your own being? I'm not joking. Come on. Come on. Come on, Tyson, Misty. Come on. So what I would like to weave into that is this, what was coming to me is this place of the unseen, this movement of energy that's always coming to us as the new information. And, and that was, when you're thinking about the implicate and the explicate order, the inner and the outer order as one movement. I mean, ultimately, that is resonance. When we get to be in that frequency of that movement, in that toroidal flow, then how do we be with every circumstance that comes to us with every person's expression. And I realized, had this realization after last week, and we're going to have some time to really open up for people to come in and really share about what happened last week, what your learnings were, what what your experience was. A lot of people had experiences after we even got off talking about Lisa's land, but also what it is that you're learning. And for me, what was really coming forth last week was I had this sort of epiphany of sorts. And it was about, oh my God, this is what we're doing here, is what's happening here is the field is inviting us. It wants to give us the direct experience of resonance. Oh, you want to learn about heart resonance? You want to understand how to hold it? You want to know how to maintain that vibrational field? Here. And I realized it was why we started out with triggers. Because it's almost like I think many of us have been experiencing this dredging up of so much old patterns or whatever to free us to be in that space to receive the new information, whatever that is for you and whatever that is as a collective for us. So thank you all for being here tonight. And I do really want to hold Lisa and Malini, who are really not feeling well, in love and in that healing vibration. And we're going to go macro tonight with Charlie's done a grid of all of you, your watersheds, where we're going to talk about that. But before we do, I kind of want to focus on the local of what is still remaining. And I got some feedback forms that spoke to that. And also not disgruntled, but more like trying to understand why we did what we did and what was going on. And so some of those questions as well. So, and that I believe will show up, and I'll share more in terms of the diagram and how that relates. And I think that will come together with Charlie's grid. He's going to take us around the world tonight of sorts. So with that, just invite a pop in, and as you feel, and to trust again when it's your turn to speak, and trying to keep it, to 2 minutes or so we can allow this continuous flow to happen. But what was moving in you, if you didn't have a chance to speak from last week working with Lisa's land, and anything that was coming to you after the fact, what did you gain from that? What would you like to see more of? Whatever's moving. So these things are important. And I do want to say one thing, which is whenever we're working on land, it is, we all gained a lot. For those of you, hopefully you watched the video, listening to what came through Michelle around the land, and the land speaking about asking permission and becoming more aware of the spirit of place that we're walking in. And that when we're working together, it's really important to set a field, a safe container for everyone. And that wasn't done in the beginning, which a place of containment, a place of protection for those that are working on pieces of land that haven't been doused or worked on. And we do be as sensitives, as empaths, we do have these experiences, and it's very important to make sure that that field is set, and that wasn't set properly last week. And so that's part of my learning. So with that, I open up and just want to allow what wants to move here, and let's just trust the flow and trust the field in that experience. It's all yours. That includes ahas that you might have had.
I can start. Hi, everybody. It's Judy. Yeah, last week was very interesting, and I have had a cold this week, and so I apologize, Shelly. I haven't even sent my feedback form in, so Shelly hasn't. We haven't talked about this at all, but yeah, this group is so beautiful in that we're trusting so much and stepping into what may show up and how things progress. And I think, though, that when we're doing certain protocols, procedures, diving into deeper energies, that there are certain things that have to be standard and we have to do every time. And I didn't know that what we were doing. And then when you asked me to step in, I didn't really know what you wanted me to do. It was all a bit of a, oh, like, I mean, we've done lots before, but not for at least over a year. And so I don't know what specific protocol or what such a contracted, we weren't doing a full dousing, and yet we were opening and closing and calling everybody in and exiting them and doing everything yet in this very short amount of time. So yeah, it was very different. And I have no doubt that we obviously accomplished, which isn't the right word, we shifted a lot of energy and we learned a lot. Just the exercise itself, like we've said, we learned so much just by this. But it was very much a reminder that we have access to huge, powerful energies, and we have a great responsibility. And we need to really be cognizant of how we, as the caretakers or the partners with the land, we're partnering with these beings that are trusting us, and just how we step into it together. So important. And it isn't necessarily the way that we've always done it. We may learn that, okay, there's just certain things that hold the space and there's freedom. And anyway, it's just a lot came up for me this week in some stuff that we already knew. And I know Shelly briefly talked about that this came up for me before in our Sacred Evolutionary Dowsing group. And just briefly to say, we've been on the Zoom call, and I had come into the call. I was visiting family, and I'd come into the call later, and they had already done their setting of the space, and I had come in and just come right into the pictures being up on the screen of the space that we were dousing. And so I didn't protect myself. I didn't do anything. I just dove right in with the group. And we encountered quite a bit of dark energy. It was a challenging job. There was a lot of stuff that we were dealing with on it. And then we closed. But when I was then driving in my car, I wasn't driving, luckily. I was in the back seat. and finishing the call with everybody. And when I finished and I went into meditation, I went into a place where I felt like I could not access light, that I could not feel source. I literally asked my partner, oh my gosh, what's going on? Like everyone else in the car, I'm like, is there something happening? Because I couldn't, it was so strange. And then I, heard to go inside, see the light inside, and I saw a spark within my own bubble, blah, blah, blah. And I expanded it and connected with source. But there was some entity, being, blockage, whatever, something happened to me in that process that we had by not doing that protection, by not setting that field for myself. So I just bring all of this up to say that we're playing with big stuff. We're really, really stepping into a place where we need to be very conscious of how we engage. And it's not fear, but it's a recognition of the protocols are very important for our well-being and for the success of the process that we're trying to do. So I'm not saying we did anything wrong. It's just a lot to observe and to be conscious of as we go forward. That I'm complete.
I can go next. Judy, I had very much the same reaction you had, only I wasn't very sweet about it. I felt very strongly that we, as meaning the said group that was, we were illustrating what the said consortium does when we work with a person on their property and their, this, that we as dowsers and as co-creative partners with the unseen elements, we get our power, we do the transformation in communion with our helping spirits. We don't get it. And so the way is we create sacred space and identify different energies and then seek to transform those energies through into something at a higher level. It's got to be with really respect, and respect is a key word, and care. And as Judy said, we're playing with big energies, and we really need to follow some very essential parts of the process, not just preparation, so that the different members have a chance to see the land ahead of time. And Lisa, as the prospective client, is ready. Then protection, whatever form of protection we want to do. Permission, that's huge. And then a collective intent. And that's how I would like to see the said consortium consistent, set the space, be in the sacred cauldron together, and work together. And I don't want to do it anything less. In fact, I'd like to do it with absolute reverence and respect, as I suspect each and every person here does. I would like to think we'd have a chance to, maybe later during the GRO weeks, to do a more planned upon dowsing process. Thank you. Thanks for listening, everybody.
This is June from San Jose, and as I listen to what's being said, I can feel inside the moments of concern from last week when things didn't seem to be going the correct way, but then realized that we're moving beyond the correct way to understand that what comes up, regardless of what we do, is what we're learning about. And so I really spent a lot of time after the session. Well, first during the session, I spent a lot of time with my own pendulum and my own rods, just trying to work with what little I know and remember from past training. But what was important for me more than anything was the power of the message of the beings that were there with us, and their willingness to come out so powerfully to tell us what they felt and what they needed, and our needing to my needing to really hear that and to open to it, and to explore within myself, what is that call from me? What is it that I can do, let go of, become, or whatever, to hear those voices even more. I do work with the land a lot, and am just astonished at what the elementals do and for the land. And so I came home. No, I was home. After the session, I went into a whole different space of absolute joy and gratitude as I thought about what is it, as I think of my own home, and what it gives to me and what I hopefully give to it, and realize the joy that I feel when I walk up my front walk, and people probably think I'm crazy, but I talk to my plants, I touch my plants, I give gratitude. And as I walk in the front door, I realize, and I need to really realize it a lot more, how open it feels, how welcoming it feels, and that I want very much to find out if there's what's in the way of anything that stops me, my home, from being opening and welcoming. What I do know is that this type of work with the elementals, with our nature, with our being able to go in, is so powerful and so important. And I give deep gratitude that we're doing it and will continue to do it. So I'm complete.
I would pretty much joining in with what's been said with Judy and Deborah and June. And so to me, the takeaways are reverence and honoring and preparation. And any sacred experience, which I always think dowsing is, has to be approached that way. And people that don't douse could still certainly be aligned with sacredness and honoring, and just keeping all those in mind. And so I guess for me also, even though I have to always say there is no time, but when we're in the 3D element, we do have to work with time. And that has to be respected. And some things take time on the 3D level. And that's that if you take the time for the reverence and the honoring and the preparation, which includes everything that everyone has already spoken about, then I think I envision that it would be more likely to have better outcomes for all, for the highest good of all. I'm complete.
If I could just add, I'm going to bring my weight till everybody goes.
Sorry, I didn't.
I
Yeah,
thought you were saying no. I'll be brief. It's just an extension that strong, adamant voice that came in, the Deva, whether it was Mother Earth or whatever being Michelle was speaking, the land that was speaking to permission. It brought up also that we don't get lost in ego, not just our personality, but humanity. We, evolved being on the planet, and we're going to now fix everything. We messed things up, and now we're going to fix the earth. We're going to fix the grid lines. We're going to fix what we've messed up. Like, we still have to ask permission, and we are still just offering to help if it's wanted and needed and in the highest and best. I was doing a dowsing with some of Kara Breeze, and we were actually doing a questioning on a project that was meant to not duplicate what the earth does, but put together many systems of desalinization and air and doing food growing under a dome that could feed 25,000 people. It's this amazing project. But we did a journey going in and asking about, asking Mother Earth about, was this appropriate? And oh my God, it was this voice that came back that was, I don't need to be fixed. It was just like this reprimand of, like, get over yourself. Like, you think you have this place and the highest and best. And so I just bring that in, that permission and asking, what is my place here? How can I help? How can I step? What is the highest and best? However that's approached and asked. Complete.
okay. I'm hoping that John Brockett and Daniel share what you wrote and what you shared inside of this experience. I don't want to have that be lost. And I only know that because I saw some of the feedback forms and spoke to some of you. So just, this is actually really good to flush this out. Also because this is not set up as a dowsing consortium. Not everybody here is interested in dowsing. So it's really important, everything that's been said, but what does this mean to people who aren't interested in becoming dowsers? and that's part of what's going on here is, number one, to obviously have the earth speak, the land speak, your house speak, what it's wanting, but it's to create an environment of greater awareness, greater presence as a whole living system, which is inclusive of your house and the land. So I just, again, want to make that really clear that some of the voices that aren't being shared yet, no matter what you're feeling, or maybe there was just one thing and it wasn't specific to the land or to Lisa's house, to really allow that to move here, to trust yourself, that there is something that wants to come through you. Just really want to open that. And I also want you to know that I'm just going to read you what Lisa said. And I haven't spoken to Lisa. And no, Lisa did not know that she was going to be put on the spot like that, but received it incredibly well and was open. And this is what she said. Thank you so much for the work on my home last week. Loved how the land came to speak. Such a good reminder that we are in relationship with everything around us. So I thought that was just important that everyone knows, like we never know what anybody's experience it was, no matter whether we asked permission, didn't. It's all about wake up. Come on, guys, let's wake up together. So just wanted to drop that in, and I'm complete. So hope to hear from everyone, and Nahid, you too.
So I'll pop in quickly. I find this whole thing so fascinating, and it's really interesting. I ran across some research from some biophysicists, I think they call themselves, which determined that all of us, from the moment of our presence, we're already living in the past, in that our neurobiological physiology, there is a millisecond of delay between the field and our interpretation of the field. And when that happens, we have all of our belief systems, all what we think is true, and base what we feel as though is our reality upon that. And yet, in fact, and this is what I've always felt so wonderful about resonance, because resonance has no interpretation. Resonance is that field that happens a millisecond before we make our interpretation of it. So when I rest in that space, what am I listening to? Am I listening to facts and figures and somebody else's interpretation? I don't trust that. But what is happening in the resonant field before our interpretation is absolutely reflected in our nature, in our mother nature. Before the Industrial Revolution, when we had sacred harmony with our indigenous elders, before this thing happened that we're doing now up here, there was this direct communication that narrowed the gap between, and by the way, what these biophysicists call it is near future reality, meaning the reality has already happened before we interpret it. And our interpretation is not an actual accurate reflection, but I'm assuming, I know nothing about dowsing, but I'm assuming dowsing, and I'm assuming sacred ceremony, and I'm assuming what we do when we drop into the resonant field is to narrow the gap between our interpretation and the truth of the unified resonant field itself. And the closer we get to that and narrow that gap, then all the biases and prejudices and hates and angers and me against you and all of this dissolves and dissipates, because in that field that happens before our interpretation, none of that exists. We make the things up. And so I honor how we are at this moment finding that way to feel the resonance before the interpretation happens. That when we go back into deep ceremony, it is that resonant field speaking directly before we try to make sense of it. And so I just want to throw that out. So just very briefly, my feelings about last week, and I'm glad to hear Lisa reported what she did, because I hurt inside when things were going on last week, because I put myself in the position that I projected onto Lisa, which was a great teaching for me. How much my interpretation is a projection and it is not the truth at all. And so as I rested out of that projection and out of that identification with my own woundedness, had nothing to do with Lisa at all. And yet I put myself in the position, if it was happening to me and I heard the things about my home that were unpleasant, then I had a pushback. I had a reaction to it. And it was my interpretation that was doing that. It was not resonance. And so it was another teacher for me to dissolve the historical evolution as if it is the truth, when the truth is near future, before my bioenergetic physiology makes a determination as to what it is. So the closer we come together in the resonant field itself, the heart knows. The heart is the receptor. It's not my brain. It's my heart. And I bet I'll bet Daniel can speak to this as well, because the ancient ceremonies that are so it happened before interpretation, and then the living of it occurred because through not the interpretation, but through the resonance itself, through the land, through the great mother, through the field itself. And so I really trust that that's what we are all moving, opening, and sharing with each other. And I'm complete.
Greetings, family. I was just closing a couple because we're close to the street and there's a lot of construction going on here. Thank you so much for all that's been said by all of you. And I'm sharing as I've been asked to in a good way. And it doesn't mean that I'm not interested in dowsing, just so you know. I think it's pretty fascinating from what I've heard. And I'm just vaguely familiar with what that practice is, but it's definitely a genuine interest. So hoping that maybe this leads to add to another path that will be helpful for me to be present in why I'm here to help in mending of the sacred hoop. It's just part of that. I was last week taken with the fact that I was impacted by Lisa when she was sharing about her home. And I immediately received, if you all remember, she spoke about this blob in front of the maple. Anybody remember that? I think she referred to it a couple of times as the blob. Well, the blob said to me, I don't like being called that. Hello? And as I looked on the screen, there were a few other blobs of same color. I'm pretty much just in that place that as that spoke to me, that was a tree. That was that was an elder of mine. Standing tall people in my life, they are my elders. And so it spoke that way. And so it was, and in this sharing that took place, there was no addressing the blob. And it was another relative. So as that impacted me, and as I was listening, as it spoke, and the other standing tall people behind or the front or whatever that was in the back area there, they also were speaking as well. And they were also chiming in that no one pays attention to us out here. Lisa doesn't come out and talk to us. She hasn't performed any kind of ceremony here. We're just here. And of course, as you can see, if you were paying attention, and I'm not a person that plans landscaping as such, but they were telling me that they were pretty crowded. There could have been a lot more space between them, between those canopies that were there. And there was no, I'm almost certain I can say, but Lisa will certainly be able to let us know whether or not, I mean, I think of these beautiful trees, as we call them, and there wasn't no tire swing on any of the trees. There was no sit swing, where children were playing. And that complex, I felt had some children in it, and everybody's in such a rush, coming in and out, going to work, coming back, picking kids up from school, getting ready for dinner, and all those things, that they feel they're ignored. They're just, of course, there for just attraction and things, but there's a direct connection that they have with all the land, and also that because they're so, as much as possible, always have been required to adapt on the infringement of their habitats, and the fact that they're not necessarily planted next to each other in the natural order of the universe and in their natural environment, but there they are. Which is why I when I did speak to that, I really appreciated the words that were spoken about Lisa possibly preparing a ceremony before she goes home, before she goes into her house, or something like that. And because it's like ceremony, I was really very moved by the exercise or the event or the ceremony, and maybe all included as one, because the resonance part has been really speaking to me about that resonance. And it's like everything, everything is in resonance. The heartbeat of Mother Earth, all the trees, all the plants, all the grass, all we call weeds, all the flowers. There's a natural resonance that is always present, that we're a part of. But we find ourselves always separated, so we have to make a deliberate effort to come back into resonance. To come into, or to state or set resonance, probably with ourselves. But life is its own resonance. We're part of it, and that's and I flow in that. I flow in that here. I walk out the door after in the morning, and I say good morning, now ancestor Arizona cypress, Papa mulberry, Mama apricot. They don't have like names, but those are what I've been given, that they relate to with me when I'm here at home. So I'm excited about the resonance as it's been put forward. It's been given a name that I did not know had a name. It was just a natural essence of what Spirit has been teaching me about being in resonance, and some of that relates to some of the other part of the journey that I've shared with you. That's part of the recovery part. But it's all that work in that process has brought me to this place where it's like part of this natural resonance. It actually gave me vision to say, oh my goodness, we can actually do some other things in that field, in this other place of my walk, that would really help bring more people, especially here where I work with the Yavapai Apache Reservation, the tribal lands here, and the community there. They're my family. They're my Yavapai Apache family, and they received me in that way. That we could do something there to help the tribe is to teach that whole resonance aspect of things that need to be brought for the well-being of the nation. So I'll step back about this part of setting the protection thing. I'm not sure because I'm not in the dowsing circle in that way, but I know, I won't speak for Aldo, but I know that we've shared ceremonies and things like that, which are come from different types of traditions or different paths. But what I've learned from most of the elders, at least those that I have spoken with, that I've listened to as I've been present in ceremonies, even as traditional elders, they will somewhat say, this is how we do it. But at the same time, in a compassionate way, it's like, but if your heart is right, if you're your authentic self, there's really no wrong way. There's no wrong way. If you're, whether you're smudging, whether you're doing a sweat lodge or such, if your heart mind is in sync and you're pure in thought of as much as you are in that divine self, then what you call upon will occur. And so, and that's what we talk about the sacred. In Lakota, the word for sacred is wakan. So when you're always in wakan in your life, in the ceremonial life, even if it appears to be casual, you're always protected. I carry with me all the time protection stones. These are things that's spoken to me that say, since I was a little boy, I've always carried these kinds of things in my pockets. And now they have a meaning of why it is I do that. But I'm always covered with the light. When I enter maybe a hospital or convalescent home, and I'm there for a purpose of doing some healing or helping bring prayer or a ceremony, even that's one that's included with lots of laughter and activity. I do make that consciousness of putting that around myself, but I know that Creator already has me. That's why I'm still here. So that in a simplified form, hoping not to take I did more than 2 minutes, but that was what I was being spoken to by Standing Tall Nation, along with what forward thinking of what this circle, what you all have been contributing to my teaching. That is, I always walk in with an open heart. I don't have to open my heart. It's open. Remember, transparent vulnerability. Yeah, right. So heart's open. It's just like, just keep on flowing, because whatever flows in and flows out. I'm just like the stream, just like the river, the inlet and the outlet. And the more I let out, the more comes in. So there's the infinite. Aho, Takiyasa. Thank you for letting me share.
So I have to jump in here. Thank you so much, Daniel. That was so beautifully said and really spoke to my heart. And I actually grew up about a 1-minute walk from the land that was doused last week. And so I know the property really well. I knew that property before there were houses on it. And when you speak of the Standing Tall Nation, yes, they were there. they weren't planted that I know of, at least when I was a little girl, and running around as we did in those days on our bicycles. And our parents had no idea where we were. And that area was one of the areas where me and my friends would go and run and cycle. And so it was not land that was pretty land, I would say. It was scruffy, kind of scrubby, a lot of bushes and hills of dirt. And so it wasn't manicured land, it wasn't planned land, but it was definitely beautiful in its way. There was a gravel pit not so far away from where Lisa lives now. And that was the place you stayed away from, because bad things happen in gravel pits, you know. So we were very warned as children to stay out of the gravel pit, although it looked like it would be way more fun than the hills and the trees and so on near where Lisa lived. But it was a real interesting full circle moment for me last week to look at the map and see where Lisa was and go, oh, I know that property. I know what's there. And it was a little bit desolate as I remember it, but it was beautiful in its own way. So that was, you can't make this up. These things happen as they happen. It was beautiful to be talking about that land, all land and all trees. So thank you, Daniel.
I'll go. I'm one of the voices that is, well, very intrigued by dowsing and not come to this circle to become a dowser. I've come to this circle to commune with this high-level gathering of souls that have spent a good amount of joy, work, tears, to find a place within themselves where they can receive resonance and begin to really understand what it is. I don't think we've even begun to tap into the potential of living within resonance. And I'm really intrigued with this group to bring the principles of resonance to a point where it can function to keep social groups of circles of trust that we're all, I think, involved with building in one degree or another, to keep us or to help us stay neutral in our engagements and in like a still point of quantum love, so that as facilitators or focalizers of groups, social groups that are coming together to evolve our species, triggers will show up. And learning the process of honoring the message of that trigger and then allowing that trigger to be transmuted to move the group forward. So being the water maniac is the word that came up. I see what Daniel was describing as resonance as being the water that sits in a vessel. Is that the vessel can have many shapes, sizes, volume, configurations, natural, unnatural, it's still all the water. And realizing that when we begin to see everything as that vibrational frequency, the resonance becomes our own ability to, like as Daniel said, it's always there, but when you really come into resonance, it's finding that place, that sweet spot where whatever energies are present begin to sing. And with regards to last week, I had a lot of singing going on, even with the land speaking to us, because I really felt that the design of that landscaping had not asked permission from the watershed and the natural. And we all felt that constriction, and we all felt the way in which water had been ignored, and the life that is born and nurtured from that water was ignored, even to the point of the trees that were planted too close together. And that it was really serving an artificial purpose. It wasn't serving the natural world, and could really feel that. And so even though the land that Susan played on may not have fit, I don't know what happened to the land before Susan came to it. It's hard to say whether the land that she played on was in fact in its natural original blueprint. It may not have been, but it had found a resting place within the natural environment that, and I think that's the permission is less about sort of Mother May I, and more, am I able to open my cellular receptors to read, to listen with as little interpretation as possible to get at the heart of the matter. So that's my impression. And I would like to, while certainly going through this process, to upscale our engagement with each other in terms of really coming out of these 12 weeks with even just a beginning of a methodology that can help us bring these principles to the circles that we're in. So that's my interest. Thank you.
Just want to let people know that tinkling is a water feature at Elizabeth's house. I was getting little
Is
messages.
everybody hearing it? Yeah.
Okay. All right, let's keep going. It's really beautiful field.
There's and the top rock in that little rock with the figure in it are my rocks for this circle here.
Maybe I would go next. I feel heavy. My head is big and heavy too, and hard. And I don't know why it gets like this. Last time that I was here, that happened as well. I don't go to many groups. I have only 2 groups that I have chosen, and I've chosen out of the love and connection with Shell for the last 9 years. And some people who have been that long in this relationship to come and you name the word to commune, actually to feel our togetherness together. And last week, it was so disorienting what was happening to me. And I've heard, I know of dowsing. I personally don't have any interest. I like my house to be doused, but I don't have any interest in dowsing. I have all the interest of what lies within the heart of human. That is my interest and my focus. And you named it, Daniel. We are always in resonance. I'm not sure. I started feeling really very uncomfortable that eventually I had to take care of myself. Because there was not, I mean, I didn't give myself permission truly to say what is going on with me, to voice that. Because we were in the middle of a project that I had no clue from the beginning. It's like, what is, yeah, we're gonna go remote to dowsing, but I have no clue about these things. I just hang around to see what is the direction and why I'm. And interesting, even after I had to take care of myself, I didn't know how to take care of myself. I was so lost in whatever was going on with me that I couldn't eat, I couldn't do yoga, I couldn't go walk, I couldn't do anything. I just kept walking around. Eventually, after an hour and a half, I made a phone call and to go for 2 hours massage. I felt really much better when I came back. So what I'm hearing and here, something John initiated the conversation and Daniel expanded. What I'm hearing is the earth, the land, and I call it land, is shouting to nurture, to nourish yourself. Somehow, I don't know where we have lost that thread. That it's like something is not well and I have to fix it. We have been doing lots of that with ourselves, to go through this personal development and evolving and all of that. We have done lots of that, and maybe that is been part of the path. But we have arrived in a different space and time right now. Now we want to fix the land. We are living being the land. So if I would, from that space of awareness and sensitivity to the field, to resonance field, if I would be present on the heart and what I'm hearing and being directed to, this is taken care of, and the rest of the world. I wish I had a word or I could communicate this differently, that there are many distractions and strategies for fixing, making it better. There is nothing to make it better. Already is better. But one needs to to bring the attention to is to this space. And what brings you to talk about joy, my love, Cheryl? What brings the fulfillment to be the space of that tender loving towards oneself and everybody else? I swear it would take care of itself. So I find myself out of my love and deep connection, just keep coming here. And I'm sure we all would be guided to go where we need to go. So I didn't think that I have anything to say. I really didn't want to say anything. But it's still my head hot and big. I said, okay, let's just put it in this space and share your recommend.
So we have like 6 more people to share, and I'm hoping everyone does share because there is something moving in everyone. If you can really try to keep it to 2 minutes so that we can take you somewhere around the globe before we leave for tonight. So pop in.
I'll pop in real quick. The words that just came through me this moment, was we are here to no longer be separated from the land, but to bring it back into its natural resonance. And this is what everybody's really been talking about for me is we're all dealing with our own heart resonance and how it's affecting us. And what we're doing is we're actually mimicking what Mother Earth is going through as well. And this is why it hits so hard and so deep. And we become aware of, or at least for me, become aware of how what I do isn't about fixing Mother Earth. It's about assisting Mother Earth to come back into resonance and balance. And so thank you for that, just clarification for me. Thank you all.
What's come to me? Sorry, who's that? Can I share? Yeah, what's come to me to share is the aspect of permission. And when Michelle last week brought through the voice of the land and you didn't ask, I immediately interpreted that as we didn't ask. But then after Elizabeth shared, I really got a deeper understanding of the permission aspect, that it was, well, that it could have been not so much that we didn't ask, but that the original development that was on that land that we were working with had not asked the nature spirits about how to be there. So I think it was programming that wanted to take it as a criticism of myself not to ask, when in fact it's a deeper thing, much deeper than that. So thank you, Elizabeth, for bringing that insight in. I really got a lot from what you shared with us. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for that, because for me, it's not a case of permission at all. It's a case of starting it off with apologies. And that is for the lack of sensitivity we have as humans when we approach the landscape and alter it, that we don't ask for permission. So I always start by an invocation to apologize to all the unseen forces and elementals of the landscape for what has been committed against it without permission. So so I start with apology, and my protection comes from the fact that it's not something I'm aware of. I just wade in with big, hip waders into whatever I do, because I'm abiding by the law of one, which is do no harm. And I'm asking for the most benevolent outcome for all concerned, which is all life forms, all living essences. So I'm here, so I'm present to bring restitution, reconciliation to all the different kingdoms. And I'm only the vehicle of helping do that. And as was said previously, Mother Earth does not need to be healed. She'd do just fine without humans. Thank you very much. So it's more of how can I help all of the different kingdoms come together through reconciliation with the human intrusion that's been, or well, crimes that have been committed against nature. How can I bring them all back into harmony to sing this a song of harmony with Mother Earth once again? So really that's what I do. So I'm a bit bold in that I do wade in with hip waders, and I deal with exorcism and the worst of the worst. So I'm just used to, let's get in there, see what's happening, and the trees aren't happy, and I'm going to hear about it, and that's the, I'm actively listening to what the response is, and knowing that a lot of pain and suffering and trapped emotion comes from humans that's locked in the land, and it's going to come roaring out once it's been, allowed to be listened to. So that's what I can say. I'm done.
Somebody else going? Okay.
Yeah, Alda was jumping in after,
Okay.
and then you
All
can.
right. Okay.
Yes, thank you. Just briefly, I wasn't going to speak because really I'm just echoing what other people have said, and that it was last week was quite a learning experience for me. It was something that I've never done before. I have no familiarity with dowsing, but I just feel like it's really about respecting the land and respecting all of creation, just understanding our part in it, an equal part in it. As far as asking permission, of course, although I believe Shanti said that she did, but it's also, for me, introduction is important. I would not, regardless of how sick I was, it would be very disturbing if a group of people kicked in my door and started trying to heal me. So I just, watching our energy and introducing ourselves. I know personally that's how we always start into a ceremony with any elements, by introducing ourselves, a formal introduction of who we are and where we're from and why we've come, and what we're there to do, what we're asking for, and listening to the response, just to the introduction. Yeah, but it was, and I mean, of course, it's the intention is loving, so it can only go so far wrong. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for everything you've shared. And this has been so interesting and beautiful just to be in the space and hear everyone's feedback and all the different aspects of the field really speaking through us. So thank you all. And I really appreciated what Tyson had to say, because that is more often than not my approach to things. And I realized that, usually, so I do dowsing. I also do healing as well. And I'm used to, when someone asks me to do dowsing work or healing work, in a sense, I already have the permission. And, but not necessarily as far as the land goes. And I think what everyone has shared about, really, especially, I really love the idea of just introducing ourselves, to the land and the energies there, and somehow making that acknowledgement. I don't think it's so much permission as just acknowledgement and listening, as Alda was saying. I think that's perfect, because, and as long as we are really coming from that place of the and for the highest good for all concerned, and that's not only the people in the house, but the land, the beings, the elementals, everything, then we can't go too wrong with that. So, but I did feel initially when we tuned into Lisa's place, I felt something that I don't know that's been acknowledged, but there was to me, I felt a very strong indigenous spirit there in the land itself. And it might have been some indigenous person or persons or just the land, I don't know, but it felt more like an indigenous person or settlement that had been there. And that definitely felt like it wasn't acknowledged, or that permission wasn't given for that energy, for the other energies came in and ignored that indigenous community or whatever it was that was there. So I think there was a deeper layer even, as far as that piece too. At least that was one of the things that I was getting. So when Elizabeth was talking, or not Elizabeth, the other one, I'm sorry, I can't remember the name of the person that was channeling the land, but it felt like that was also that there was a being there that was an indigenous being and an ancestor that was there that had not been acknowledged. So so that was something that I was feeling, and yet I didn't bring that into the space. For me, I'm seeing how to work with a group and how to be in a group, honestly, because I don't do groups that much. And so I teach groups and everything, but that's a different sort of arrangement than a group like this. And for me, I always have felt a little bit just apart from any group that I've ever experienced. And it's like, I'm the one that's sort of out here just observing and not participating, So for me, being both, and in a way that I've done that to keep my own integrity. So to have my own integrity and have also really resonate with the group, I'm ultimately learning in this group, and yeah, I'm really happy for that. So, but because what I know about resonance is like resonates with like. And just in the most simple form of what resonance is, like resonates with like. So anything can resonate with anything else as long as there's that element to it. So what we want to bring into our resonance is, when the heart is truly in its integrity and innate harmony, then all of our hearts can resonate together because that's a particular frequency. And we are resonating, when we're resonating with the earth, it's our own innate blueprint that's resonating with the innate blueprint of the earth, and the innate blueprint of the the beings of the earth. And so really coming into that innate blueprint of ourselves and of the earth, and then allowing that resonance, that's my understanding of resonance. So the more we can align with that within ourselves, and we can align with that as a group, and then align with that in relation to the earth. So I am complete.
Hi, I just want to amend my kick in the door analogy. That was really way too harsh. It's more like people walking through the door lovingly offering me, but still, I prefer an introduction first.
We
Anybody?
generally introduce ourselves when we come into anybody's home.
So just want to check on the few people that haven't spoken. Do you feel inspired, or you want to just leave it as is? Okay. Well, then let's just move on. So. Oh, yeah,
Go ahead.
go.
Hi. Hi, everyone. I am not involved in dowsing either, so this is a very new experience for me. But what keeps coming up for me is the word repair, and kind of a wondering or a question that I'm playing with. And for me, it feels like there's somewhat of an undercurrent of this energy of still not feeling like we didn't ask permission. We didn't acknowledge certain beings while we were there. And I apologize if this is a crude analogy, but it was like a drive-by dowsing, like just a quick, like a, you know, not a reverence or, you know, and I don't know what the process is, but certainly I felt kind of a dark energy and a heaviness as well. And I didn't know what to do. I didn't know, I don't have those practices or tools, or shouldn't say I don't have them, but they're not in my consciousness at this point. So I think, what would it feel like on a resonant level if we went back there and made repair and apologized? And then I reflect, and maybe that's just something I need to work through. But I guess that's what I wanted to share. So I'm complete.
Misty, I'm so glad you said that about the drive-by, because when I was talking about more attention to the sacredness, I had this little image of here was some house of worship over here where people prepared and they went up, and then over here was this little booth like those coffee kiosks, and people were just driving through, and somebody was going, bless you, bless you, bless you, as they drove by. It's like, that's what it felt like last week. It was like, yeah, I kind of would have rather gone and sat inside. So when you said the drive-by, I was like, that's what I was thinking. Drive through was what I thought.
Thank you. So just directly, Oriana or Grace, anyone else? Do you guys want to share? Or you're good?
I just want to say thank you all. I wasn't here last week, so I'm just kind of getting the cliff notes and gleaning the wisdom. So thank you all.
The larger book is in the video from replay. Brianna, you good? You want to share anything? Okay. So let's all take a breath. And what if everything's been perfect? Even the drive-by dowsing. What if that just is exactly what was meant to happen? And just invite that little, not that these things, everything that's been shared has been, I feel like I'm just a chalice full of awakened ideas and wisdom from each one of you. It's amazing, beautiful. But I also want to put that out, that, you know, like, not to make it wrong. Not that we might want to go back to Lisa's place. We might want to, with all of this new information and trust. So let's put that out to you. So we have 15 minutes left. And I'm going to invite Charlie. So here we are, we're talking about resonance and the land. And I love this consciousness of resonance before the interpretation happens, which essentially doesn't matter if we're dowsing or doing anything else. It's if we can be in that consciousness, in that liminal space before the interpretation, which is actually all that's happening here, to wake us up in how to be that, to practice, to remind ourselves, to remember anytime we fluctuate, that's what we're here for. And then you apply it to dowsing or to your other groups or to whatever you're doing. Land healing, So I think this is really beautiful. So we're going to go with Charlie. And we're going to start to feel that larger connection to each other and to the world, and just to breathe with the beauty of the eternal consciousness of resonance. It is, I was saying with this, that when Nassim talks about his academy, his website was called Resonance Is. That simple. So that, I got to let you share the screen. Sorry, Charlie. Here we go.
I was just going to ask you, am I showing the picture or are you? So, what's amazing is what I'm going to show you is a grid that I work on grids, and grids came to me before dowsing. And just to explain the work that I do with the grids, it's a guided event, guided from spirit or whatever you want to believe in. There's many names for the same source of what we can't fully understand in physicality. So I was guided years ago to work in triads. And I visited with a crystal skull called Max, and I was taken out of my body and saw grid work that looked like the inside of a golf ball. And when I went there, it was all different colors, and the message was, welcome home. And that's carried with me. And when I look at the planet Earth, or I look at any planet, that's all it is. It's a golf ball with all of this grid work in it. And it's all energy. And it's all different levels of energy. It's different frequencies of energy. And all of this is woven into the whole fractal beingness of our quantum field. And I can't say that from a scientific point. I've not studied anything. So when Shelley asked about a grid of watersheds for this group, what I did was I took all of your watersheds and I put a marker in the water. So it has nothing to do with where you live or whatever, but whatever you said your watershed was, it's connecting to the water. And the water is a source of all life here on planet Earth. It's a source of all life throughout the universe. It's the source of life beyond. Any living form, what we call form, has water in it. So the connection is through the water. And I'm going to share this screen. And that's what this represents. And hopefully you can see that. And what you see is North America and Central America, and you'll see all of these red lines. And all of these red lines are the grids. And they're all in triads, and they connect each one of us to each other. And when it goes around here, around the world, that's going towards Mali.
Charlie, will you excuse me for 1 second? Can you close down the places menu, or does that have to stay up? I don't think, we didn't have it up today, I don't think.
No, well, I don't know if I can or not.
Okay, if you don't know, don't worry. I think,
yeah, because this is showing the whole screen.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think I can. All it is you're where you are and where you are. And I won't make you too dizzy, but this is Hawaii, and then it goes to India, and this is Tanajma in Australia, and this is Ia in St. Croix, and we have up over across. This is Tyson, and over here in this area here, as I zoom in, you'll see it's explained. And this is Shelley. So this symbol right here is Cadillac Mountain in Maine. And that came to me to put in here because we needed a point of light. And so that's the entry point of the light. It's the first place that light shines on North America for most of the year. And so that's what this grid represents, is the light energy that is flowing from the universe, and it's connecting there, and then it spreads throughout this grid work. So without a whole lot of business, if you look here, we've got a lot of people on the West Coast, but we're all connected. And the key of all of this grid work that I do for the dowsing came as a result of learning a protocol to bless water. And so what I'm trying to express to everybody is the connection of all the elements that we are consciously aware of is far greater than we've ever been told and far greater than we've ever understood. And what's happening right now for all of us, even in this circle and circle around circles and coming together, is a deeper understanding of our relationship to resonance. And what this may look like may look very scattered or irregular. But if you overlay that with 10,000 grids, that's what's happening. This is where we live. And what I've learned is through dowsing is that when you connect 2 points or 3 points, it's always 3, but it's usually a water, a mountain, and a place. It can be sacred energies. When you connect those energies, you have a power to work with that invigorates everything. And this is what I've learned and I share with others, is this connectedness, that we are not separate. And this is an intentional connectedness. So all I want you to do, and I'll stop the share now, unless Shelley wants me to drag you around the world.
Yeah, would you just drag us around the world, let them follow, just for a minute, and so that they can,
Okay.
yeah,
So we'll just take here's where John and Misty's here, and Catherine Parker. And John and Misty are in the same watershed, but Catherine is in a different watershed. It's further away. If I zoom out, we come down to here. We have all of these lines connected to Oriana. Is it Oriana? No, it's the location. Although bless you, Oriana, for living in that location in this group, because you are a connector field of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 people are connected. And Daniel and Alda have 3 people connecting to your space. If we go up here, again, we have Elizabeth and Deborah and June. And you can see how when you go in, all of these energies are flowing. So there's no disconnection. So what I want to impress on everybody is there's no disconnection in our energies in the highest form. Okay. If we cross here, Nahid, sounds like I have to get a new location for you. But here you are on Kauai. And what's interesting is the line from Malini, well, no, is it? Yeah. No, this from Najma. This is Australia. Let me get north so it looks better. Make it look like Australia, please. Thank you. So from there, the line goes through Kauai to June. So all of these lines are coming out of a spring, actually a waterfall. And I'll zoom way in if I can, just to show you what it looks like from Najma. And you go way, 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 way in, and you'll see this little place right here. And that's a waterfall. And it's something about a mill, but there's a waterfall, there's running water there. So everywhere it's connected is to a water source near you. And I take meticulous time to do that because it's important. It's important to pick up the energy. And you say, well, it's just a diagram, it's just a map, it's just on a computer. And I can share with you that it's not just there. Because when I do this, I ask permission to connect the energies of the water in each one of you to the water of Mother Earth, to the water of our ancestors of the stars from which the water came, to the water that is in the eternal womb of Mother Earth. So this message of grid work, not that anybody else has to understand it or do it, it's about connecting through the highest form of relationship with all of life. And it's all about peace, light, and love, which is my purpose of being here. I died and came back to anchor peace, light, and love into all living forms, whether we understand them as living or not. And I say that emphatically because it doesn't matter what form there is on this planet, it is living. So that's as brief as I can be, Shelley. As Shelley knows, and people in the consortium know, I can go on and on and on and on. So hopefully that brings you into a field of coherence to realize that we're more than this flesh and bone in this group. We're more than what we think. We're more than what we've been taught. We're more than what we do. That what I see as this group coming together is an opportunity to work in that circle of 12 around 1, that sacred geometry. And no matter what happens here, we're going to take it out, and like those grid lines, we're going to be those grid lines, and we don't know where we're going to connect to. We don't know who we're going to talk to. We don't know how this is going to affect us. So I guess what I have to say is for everybody to keep your hearts open. Keep your hearts open. Let the mind rest, come back into the heart resonance, go deeper, dive deeper into that heart. And as Grace will tell you from Global Heart Team, you think you've gone deep in your heart? Go another 10 million miles. That's how big it is, because it's the center of the only way to get to this wholeness is through the heart. Thank you. Shut it up, Shelley says. Okay, gotcha.
I can only.
Bravo, Charlie, thank you so much. That was amazing. Hey, thank you.
Woohoo! Perfect. Ah. So I think we just
You'll be able to share that with us, Shelley.
Yeah, so okay. So yeah, hold on. Hang in there. First, I just want to let's just have a minute of silence. Like go quiet for a minute. Just feel into your body. What's been moving? So yeah, I will share the grid. I'll put it in the email with the replay. You need to download Google Earth Pro. It's free if you want to get that moving grid. I'll also share some of the screenshots of the close-ups, which I've done. But if you want to experience that and take a look and feel into it, yeah, Google Earth Pro. It's free. Thank you, everyone, for staying present. It's been a beautiful, important call. And next week, I'd love to ask Nahid if you would want to open the resonance for next week. Just like putting that out there ahead of time. Unusual. And in listening to the field, we can bring back Lisa's piece of land and maybe just take 15 minutes. If she's feeling better, hopefully you are feeling better, Lisa. And also hear from Lisa, which is important after she sees this video. I have a encouragement, a little nudge to invite everyone to print out the graphic that has everyone's name in the 12 around 1 and to take your stone and put it in the middle and let that begin to grow, because that's been a very important part of the experience in the work that I've done with the consortium over the years. It's amazing when we start connecting and we start noticing what wants to be placed on that altar and the consciousness. So take a minute or 2 or 5 minutes a day just to kind of look at that, notice and listen for what is coming forth to you. Just a little nudge if you want to. And with that, want to say good night and stay abreast of I will put, Deb has offered something that she wants to put into the next email. And if any of you find that something inspires you to share as we build this field together and understand what those principles of resonance are, the emails, I'm always trying to pull forward what's being shared. And by different people, I'm looking for different people's shares. So it's a very live transmission. And with that, I think we're good to go. And we can just close in silence and there is if you want, Elizabeth put a video in the chat box. So you can just take a moment and save the chat if you want. I don't know what that is, but we'll find out when we look at it. So blessings, everyone. Thank you so much. Don't forget to do your feedback forms, and I'm weaving them into one piece. They're all vital, and your voice matters. So thank you. Blessings to everyone. Love you so much. Thank you.
Thank you all. Gratitude.
Everyone, bye-bye.
Thank you with love.
Don't forget your
Blessings,
love.
everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, Shelley, for holding the space with such grace.
Love you.
Make it in a safe container.
Love you.
Thank you, everybody.
Take your
Night.
blessings. Fly away. Fly away. Oh, we love you. And they all rolled over and one fell out. There was 2 in the bed and 1. All right.